It has been a long day. Hey Internet, Harris here. This is the Tab S8 versus iPad Pro. I love tablets for school. I love reading and writing on them and writing papers and watching YouTube. But this is kind of the battle of the best of Android versus the best of Apple. Now, I'm not comparing the big size, the pluses, and the iPad Pro 12.9. I'm also not comparing the iPad mini and the iPad budget model. This is just the regular Tab S8 versus the iPad Pro 11. Similar price point, we'll get into that at the very end of the video, but we're going to compare note-taking, reading, hardware, software apps, and just the general experience to see which might be best for you as a college student. All right, let's get started with note-taking. The biggest thing for me for the iPad is digital note-taking. Both of these have really great styluses. The Tab S8 comes with it. That's huge. In the box, you get the stylus. It's shorter than the Apple Pencil and has more of a rubbery tip with a little bit more give than the Apple Pencil's rigid tip. They're both great for note-taking, and the iPad, I think, does have the advantage in terms of the note-taking applications. Mainly, Notability, GoodNotes are exclusive to the iPad, and they're awesome, and they're just so well-rounded for taking notes with the Apple Pencil on the iPad. However, the Tab S8, you can get OneNote from Microsoft. You can get Note Shelf, which comes on the device for free. You can get Nebo, which is like $12, and that's pretty good. Even Samsung's Notes app is actually really good, and I do love writing with the stylus, the S Pen. It's really smooth, and I actually kind of prefer the texture of this softer tip to the iPads. So yeah, if you're looking for, again, just note-taking, I think the iPad probably has the advantage of the software, but really good hardware with the Tab S8, a really good writing experience, and there are decent enough note-taking apps that if you're just looking to take notes, you're gonna have a really good time with the Tab S8, which I'm happy to say, again, both really good. Now, the S Pen does have the advantages of this little button here, and of course, because this is Samsung/Android, you can customize the wazoo out of this thing. You can have it do a ton of different things, from taking pictures to launching apps to doing screenshots, all this kind of stuff. You can customize this S Pen, so there are advantages there if you're somebody who does like to tinker with settings and play around with the features of software. Now, next I want to talk about reading. So I love reading on these devices, whether it be downloading full books and PDFs from my school library, so I don't have to pay for them because they're kind of included with tuition. That's awesome. Or ebooks or school textbooks that I have on these devices. I love reading on a tablet, and while may or may not be better than a physical book, that's up to debate, but definitely better than a laptop in terms of reading, and taking notes on your readings is really great with both of these styli. So the Galaxy Tab is more of a landscape device. It's 16:9, so reading is going to be more like a physical book. You can put two pages side by side, so more of a horizontal reading experience, whereas iPad is 4:3 aspect ratio, so it's going to be more vertical, and I do kind of prefer that for my reading. So again, kind of a null, just depends on what you're looking for in terms of aspect ratio, but they both have beautiful displays that make for great e-reading. Now, granted, most of the time, instead of going for ebooks, when I'm not doing a physical book, I've actually been doing these 15-minute blinks from Blinkist, and I'm very happy to say that we are working together. I'm working together with Blinkist to talk about their app in this video, and I've been using it a lot lately. So Blinkist basically takes the best nonfiction books out there, and it makes 15-ish minute summaries of all of the key and top points of these books. So if you're someone like me that picks up books often with good pure intentions of reading them and learning and growing a lot from them, but then 50 pages in, you kind of set it down and maybe pick up another book, Blinkist gives you just 15 minutes to sit down, and it gives you the key points of 5,000 different nonfiction books in a really compact and convenient way to make sure you have no excuse for not getting the most out of it. So I've been reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People recently, and the Blink is awesome. I love this book, and there's always things in it that are challenging me, especially trying to get more into quadrant 2 of the non-urgent but important things in life, and you'll have to check out the Blink if you want to learn more about that. So if you want to check out Blinkist with their thousands of nonfiction blinks, as well as shortcasts for podcasts. You can check out the link in the description. It is good for a 7-day free trial and 25% off a full subscription. I really enjoy it, and it's great for fitting in great and transformative nonfiction books into a busy student's life. So yeah, check it out down below. All right, so next I want to talk about apps, hardware, special features, and then finally pricing with some tips on how to get the best deals on these devices. First, I'm just gonna go to bed and film the rest of this tomorrow. I'll see you soon. All right, so next, let's talk about apps. So if I'm being honest, I think this is where I find the iPad standing out the most. Obviously, we talked about a couple exclusive note-taking apps for the iPad, GoodNotes and Notability, but then across the board, I find that I enjoy most apps a lot better on the iPad. My favorite app on the iPad, MLB at Bat, big baseball fan, is pretty terrible on Android. Twitter, it's terrible on the Galaxy tab. It's a super blown up, awkward version where it's pretty decent on the iPad. Now, I'll admit some of my issues with the apps aren't necessarily the quality, but just the sizing, right, and the dimensions of the apps, because they have to be scaled for so many different device types, and they're not really optimized for any one size. Like an iPad app might be optimized for a specific screen resolution and a specific aspect ratio, which is just not unified in Android. So let's say we open up the Twitter app. Like, look how big the images are. It's spread out over the entire page, right? That's a single image, and that just looks really wonky, right? And so this is just a really awkward experience browsing through Twitter. However, this can be redeemed in a sense because you can actually change the window size. So we'll go back into Twitter and we'll resize it, and then all of a sudden you have like a phone size version of Twitter on your screen, and it's much better. You see, this looks much more natural with image size. And you can do this with a lot of applications. So we'll bring up Blinkist, and so now we have Blinkist and Twitter side by side, right? And so this is a pretty cool experience. So this does help the apps, and of course with Android you can sideload apps, so you can get a lot more than it's just on the Play Store, and you can use other app stores such as Amazon Web and stuff like that, Amazon's App Store. But let's go ahead and switch it into Dex. So we go into the quick settings and we click Dex. And I really like Dex because it pretty much turns this into a mini PC, and all of the applications by default are scalable, which makes them a lot better. So here I have the MLB app, right? And it's smaller size, and we'll go back. And many apps are even designed specifically for Dex, so they have specific functions and features just for Dex. But pretty much every app that you open will open in a window like this, and you can full screen it, right, if you want it to be full screened. And then you can also easily get out of that, just like that. So now if we go into Twitter, of course this will default to the smaller window, kind of like a phone-sized window. So you can see what that looks like here, and it looks really good. Again, we'll open up Blinkist, and boom, that'll pop up right there. So multitasking is really, really excellent in Dex mode, and combined with the functions of the S Pen, right, Dex mode is really impressive. The more you use this, I think the more advantages it has over the iPad. But when you're looking for just a great experience right out of the box, that's what the iPad promises and really delivers on. And I think for a lot of people, that is plenty enough for their experiences. So while I still do like the quality of apps better on iPad, and they're more specifically designed for the iPad, and they're just richer, I find there's still a lot of advantages to the sizability and scalability of apps on the tab because of Dex mode. Now, if we're talking about hardware, they're very, very similar here. Very, very similar. They've got kind of the same design. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of awkward. But they both have dual cameras. They both have magnetic pencils that you can attach to it. 2 cameras, really thin, kind of rectangular tab and rounded designs. Speaker grills on the top and bottom, USB-C. Yeah, they're very, very, very similar devices with beautiful displays. 120 hertz refresh rates. That's where the Pro has the advantage over the iPad Air or the iPad Mini, so it does have the 120 hertz refresh rate. And of course, this is the smaller screen version. This is the 11-inch version. I'm not looking at, like I said, the bigger versions, but again, really beautiful displays on both, 120 hertz refresh rates, and really rock solid design. So both have those advantages. But then you get a huge advantage when it comes to the Galaxy. You get an SD card slot, so you don't have to pay Apple's ridiculous prices to upgrade your storage. You can use the SD card to load up movies and media and do a whole lot on your tab. So that is a huge advantage for the Galaxy Tab, is that it does have that micro SD card. The Tab also has a fingerprint scanner, but also does have its facial recognition, whereas the iPad just has the facial recognition. So actually, in terms of hardware, I think the Tab does have a couple bonus features over the iPad, and I think it does kind of take the cake in terms of hardware. Now, in terms of software, Samsung promises 4 years of software updates for this device, which isn't bad in itself, but Apple does promise you a lot more than that. Well, they don't really promise you anything, but they end up giving you many more than 4 years. That's a big feature if you plan on keeping this for more than 4 years. If you're using this for less than 4 years, doesn't really matter. But if you're using this just for writing documents on Word or Google Drive, or using the Canvas app, which is what I use at Boston College, again, both these tablets are going to be able to compete pretty well. And in terms of hardware, neither of these devices come with a physical charger. You just get USB-C to USB-C with both of these devices. And then finally, in terms of pricing, this is where things change a lot. So they both start at $699, but that doesn't really mean anything. So with Apple, they'll give you, I believe, a $50 student discount, but you can also find it elsewhere for discounted. But Samsung offers you crazy trade-in value, and it really depends on when you buy this. So if you get it during the pre-order state, you're going to get some really, really crazy good deals. So if you're really kind of even about these two devices, if you find them both really compelling and the only factor left is price, Samsung makes it really easy to go for the Tab because of that. We already mentioned the fact that it comes with the S Pen included, which is a $130 value if we're comparing it to Apple's Pencil. But then also they give you really good trade-in, up to $600, which is going to give you more trade-in than you're going to get on the iPad for a wider variety of devices. You know, Samsung really is trying to incentivize that. You also have to factor in the SD card, which makes expanding your storage cheaper. And then Samsung also throws in a lot of bonus credit on top of that. For instance, I got their folio. For instance, I got their folio case for free, which is like $79 or something like that. So all in all, the Tab ended up costing me hundreds of dollars less than the iPad with all of these rebates, credit, free stylus, things like that. On top of that, Samsung also supports Rakuten, which is a cashback site, which I always use when I'm shopping with Samsung. When I got it, I got 8% cash back. So I got between $30 and $50 back for using Rakuten. And if you don't use it already, definitely invite you to check it out with a link in the description, and we'll both get like $25 or $30 free on top of that if you use my link. Shameless plug. At the end of the day, I'm going to pick the iPad. Part of it's because I'm absolutely in the ecosystem. I use universal control between my Mac and my iPad. I also really just love the quality of apps, including some of my favorite apps being Notability and MLB from the iPad. If I wasn't an iPhone user, or I didn't really care about universal control or AirDrop for whatever reason, the Tab S8 is really, really good. The hardware is great. The software has a lot of great features. It's lacking a little bit just in some of the quality of apps from my perspective, but it is a really compelling device, and there's still really good note-taking applications, which is one of my biggest requirements for a tablet in the student school environment. Let me know what you think about these two devices. I think they're both great, but let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.